Hi, my name is Josie Drake.
And I'm Emma Robertson. Together, we conducted a qualitative research study on the advantages of linguistic diversity. We created our own definition of linguistic diversity to ensure consistency throughout our study, and we defined it as the diverse array of languages used by people of all cultures to communicate with one another in a variety of contexts and to varying degrees.
This exploratory research paper exposed the deep-rooted historical issues within American society, particularly when considering the unjust assimilation of speakers of a minority language to the majority English language. America's society covered up these advantages by efforting to fabricate a monolinguistic society. Historically, viewing minority languages as a deficit rather than an asset deprived these individuals of their linguistic diversity and with it, aspects of their identity. We conducted a thematic content analysis of past research focusing on the advantages of linguistic diversity and found two common themes. One is that multi-bilingualism benefits one's cognition in a variety of ways, and two, is that linguistic diversity in classrooms enhances the learning experiences of all students. The purpose of our study was to explore what advantages of being linguistically diverse are represented by the Sacramento State University students.
In the participant section of our methods, we note that California State University of Sacramento is the fourth most diverse campus in the Western U.S., according to the 2021 U.S. News and World Report. Due to this wide range of potential volunteers, our recruitment strategy accumulated informed consenting participants through convenient sampling from sections 2 and 3 of Dr. Jesse Miller's qualitative research course here at CSUS. For our materials, we emailed a document to Dr. Miller containing our informed consent form, screening criteria questionnaire, and open-ended question survey titled Linguistic Diversity Survey, LDS for short. To ensure that our participants' responses were anonymous, we created our LDS through the Google Forms software. We created our own set of open-ended questions to be more applicable to our focused population because past studies primarily focused on young children. We received approval from Dr. Miller for our data collection, who then sent out a mass email to her child and adolescent development 123 qualitative research classes, informing them that our documents and LDS have been made available for any and all willing participants who met our screening criteria. For our procedures, we received IRB approval for our research methodology from Dr. Miller and collected our data in a deductive approach. Participants who met our screening criteria and provided an informed consent answered our LDS questions, which were stored anonymously using Google Forms. The goal of our LDS was to explore commonalities among linguistic diverse students, language backgrounds, their experience, positive and or negative, in the education system, their views on linguistic diversity, and how educators might better advocate for and implement it within their classrooms.
Next, I will discuss our LDS results. Through our convenience sample, we acquired 12 informed consenting participants, all of whom verified they met our screening criteria and submitted their responses to all LDS questions. We exported our participants' LDS response data from the software administration Google Forms to the online word processor Google Docs. There we conducted our applied thematic data analysis, inductively coding our data. Our thematic coding identified 10 emerging themes within our participants' data, which we will discuss in the next slide. Overall, we found that participants' narratives reported both positive and negative experiences growing up as linguistically diverse individuals here in America. Each participant believed their linguistic diversity to be an advantage in a variety of different contexts, and many provided suggestions for future educators to create a more optimal learning environment for English language learners and to welcome linguistic diversity into the classroom environment. These results provide insight for members of the community to come together and advocate for linguistic diversity, starting from within the classroom. For our first question, we found that participants who reported more negative experiences were often associated with cultural differences, and those who had more positive experiences attributed it to having learned English at a young age. Question 2 provided tools and resources that English language learners had or wish they had, such as dual language programs and English as a second language classes, ESL for short. Participants also reported wanting help from and access to same language peers and mentors. For our third code, as we stated, all participants believed their linguistic diversity to be an advantage. Some advantages were more external, such as helping others, meeting new people, and greater job opportunities. And some were more internal, such as cultivating a sense of cultural pride and identity. For question 4, participants shared that creating a positive, supportive, and understanding learning environment would be helpful for English language learners. They also offered advice for educators to learn about students' individual cultures in order to develop a better understanding of them as a whole. Lastly, for question 5, participants overwhelmingly reported using their native language inside the home and with family, while using English in a context outside the home. Most participants reported translating from one language to another in their head, and many partake in translanguaging, which means using their full language abilities in order to communicate with others. Here we have data representing our third question that I have just referred to, demonstrating our two codes' external advantages and internal advantages, followed by examples of our participants' data.
For our discussion sections, representatives of the CSUS population, linguistically diverse individuals appear to take pride in their linguistic diversity and the advantages that it offers. Through our data analysis, we found that these codes aligned with past studies on advantages of linguistic diversity. A study done by Hamilton ETAO 2019 proved that cross-culturally children biologically have a greater capacity for language acquisition. But as the brain matures, the simplification of acquiring new languages decreases, corresponding with our participants reporting a more positive experience having learned English at a young age. According to another study done by Hammond, Ortiz, and Palmer 2023, emphasized the positive influence and importance of having ethnically, racially, and linguistically diverse classrooms, something many of our participants advocated for in their responses. Quintana 2022 acted as a guide for our historical research, exposing the history of what non-native English-speaking individuals had to endure because American society wanted to create a monolinguistic nation, subtractively and unjustly suppressing linguistically diverse individuals of their language and culture, correlating to our participants' responses of having a negative learning experience due to cultural differences in the American education system. Lastly, a study done by Flores 2016 emphasized how linguistically diverse individuals better benefited and maintained proficiency in their native language, as well as developed proficiency in their targeted language from additive forms of bilingual education as opposed to subtractive ones. Our participants also advocated for additive forms of bilingual education, such as dual language programs and English as a second language classes. Past research and our findings highlight linguistic diversity as an advantage in a variety of contexts, and how the American society should view linguistic diversity as an asset and advantage rather than a deficit. Two limitations of our study were time constraint and sample size. Due to there being a limited amount of time to collect our survey targeted population, our limited sample size is not significant enough to statistically represent the entire linguistic diverse population here at CSUS, and notably too small to represent the entire population of the US. Another limitation in our study was a lack of validity in our self-created open-ended LDS questions and the potential misinterpretation of question 5 of our LDS. When coding our participants' responses for question 5, it was interpreted that they responded in a defensive manner. However, when creating this question, our intention was for this question to be interpreted positively. Despite our limitations, we do believe that our study can serve as a guide for future researchers to reference because our findings do in fact align with published, reliable research.
As researchers, child and adolescent development majors, and future educators, we call out to the U.S. Board of Education, politicians, community activists, educators, and all members of the community to come together and advocate for linguistic diversity and all its advantages. Creating and valuing a culturally diverse nation rather than stripping away language and culture will demand the equity that linguistically diverse individuals have always deserved. As the future generation of educators, we strive to revolutionize the education system in order to not right the wrongs of the past, but to restore the rights of the people now and for all future generations to come.